Hi, everyone. I finally made it on. Thanks for rolling with me. I always set a time. I'm like, we're going to totally be in bed by that time. And then we're not in bed by that time. But this time it was because we went to the pool. And if you've ever gotten young children out of a pool and then you have to shower and it's an event. But hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. So we're going to chat really quick about the Peloton thing, and then we'll do whatever other questions that you guys have for the next probably 30 or 40-ish minutes. If that sounds golden, someone let me know. As always, can you hear me? And we will get going. Thanks for being here, by the way. Oh, good. Someone says hi. Hi, Maureen. Okay, so I'm just going to go. I was just going to go over questions that I get all the time about it, and then I see some of you guys left some questions as well. Okay, thanks, Julia. Hi, Justin. So we'll go over the questions that I get all the time about the Peloton, and then ones, if you guys have any, you can let me know, and then we'll just roll into our normal Q&A of absolutely whatever. I feel like this is the first time I've sat down all day. My brain's like, okay. Peloton. So I got one in March. So that is April, May, June, July, August. So 5 months ago, I have probably gotten to use it for 4 months because then I got the plague. And overall, I'm super happy with it. Was it super expensive? Yes. So it comes out to be, I want to say it's 2,000 and some ish. If you just pay it all at once, you can also finance it for, I think they do a $0 down option. And then you have to buy the bike, and then you have to buy the app membership in addition to it, which I think is $40 a month. So it's definitely not cheap, but I do absolutely love it. It's been super convenient. It's very interesting in that you get to do all the different rides. It keeps things different for you, if that makes sense. I get super duper bored exercising, and this has definitely helped that. They have lots of classes on the app. There's yoga and strength training and all the different types of things. There's dance. I never do dance. There's boot camp, there's running. I never do that either. So I've really liked that about it. I'll alternate my days with yoga, which is more strength training. And then I'll do it on the bike. And then I'm trying to think. I did have one thing where the ball bearing on mine right now is broken, but they're coming. All I had to do was log in, and I was like, oh, this is making this weird noise. And they're like, that's fine. We'll just come fix it. So I was like, okay, perfect. But overall, I really, really, really liked it. I would buy it again. Yes, it's insanely expensive. But it's been worth it. It's super convenient. You can just hop on it whenever. It's quiet. It's totally silent, which is nice because I ride mine at nighttime once the girls go to bed. So that's been super duper nice. You could probably ride it in the same room as someone who's sleeping if you were in shape, but I'm not. And I sound like I'm dying when I try to ride on it. And so from hyperventilating. So, no. So, but I've really liked it so far. I used to do spin classes pre-Avery, and I loved them just because I think it's different every time because the music's different and all this stuff. But then when I had children, I never could leave my house because you leaving your house is an Olympic event. So I really like it. If you guys have any other questions about it, I feel I get that question a lot. So I was I'm just going to talk about it super briefly. If you have other questions, let me know, and then we can talk about absolutely whatever. Hi, Ashley. PT Para. Hi. Lovely Liz. Oh, thanks, friends. I know last week was vlog. Oh, and I think even next week's I'm a week behind, but it's just been a rough go. Hi, Sophia. Tony Rowland said, I really want a Peloton, but I'm not sure it's worth it. So I think that it's worth it if I wouldn't necessarily, I don't know if anything's worth it to go in debt for it. You know what I mean? Don't throw it on a credit card or do anything like that. But if you can swing it, I think it's definitely a very convenient thing as long as you're motivated to use it. I think some people are just, it's not going to motivate you to exercise if you aren't motivated. You know what I mean? I've heard a lot of people say that. They're oh, I got it and I thought I would do it. You have to be, I think, a fairly motivated person in general to want to exercise anyways and have that be part of your life. But if you are, then it's perfect. Jade said, is it easy to move around once you place it somewhere, or it kind of needs to stay there? I would love one, but I don't think I have the space for it, or at least not a permanent spot. It does. I think it needs to stay there. It does have wheels that it looks like you could push it, but I wouldn't. I'm dreading the day when we have to eventually move it. It's pretty heavy. And I mean, it does have wheel. I don't know. It has wheels. So I guess that's like on the front. So like you could like tip it and then push it. I guess that's what it's meant for. But that seems like it would be an enormous pain. It's pretty heavy. It could get like unlevel. So I wouldn't, and I don't know where you would like put it. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't fold or anything. So I don't know where it would go. But it is kind of large. That's the other, you remember we were trying to put ours like in the corner of the loft and it did not fit there at all. What about the Peloton treadmill? I prefer the treadmill instead of a bike. I'm sure. Then I know the treadmill is like $4,000, I think, or something. So if you're super into treadmills, I mean, I don't know what the benefit would be in terms of like treadmill. I know they like will change the elevation and for stuff for you, but I don't know. I honestly don't know what like a normal treadmill would cost, like a nice treadmill. So like, would it be worth the price difference? I will say the quality of the Peloton seems to be really good. When I was looking at them, I was looking at like getting that versus like getting a different bike and then just using the app with it, because you can just get the app. But everyone that I had seen, they said like the bikes that you could get were already like the really good ones were like $3,000. And they wish everyone pretty much had just unanimously said, because, you know, I agonized over this forever, that they wish they had just gone ahead and gotten it. Cause then all the metrics feed directly into it, like the resistance and everything. But you asked about the tread. I don't know anything about the tread, friend. I am so sorry, but I'm sure it's great. It's huge though. I went to a showroom. So I mean, if you have the space for it, awesome. I love like their whole app. I feel like it's like a cult that I'm in now. When I talk about it, I'm like, oh my gosh. I do like, I'm sure it's a great treadmill. So if you're really into running and you are looking for a treadmill, I'm sure that's a great option. Anyone you know, side note, anyone you know that has a Peloton has a code for $100 off that you can use. So just ask anyone. Like I have one, but if any other people in your life have one, you get a code and it'll get you $100 off, which could cover like the shoes, because you do have to get shoes. I've seen some people get other brands of shoes, but you have to have some kind of shoe that clips in to the clips. I'm trying to think. I think Nike might have a brand that a lot of people like. I just have the Peloton shoes and they work fine. You can also buy like toe clips, which just go around any shoes that you have on Amazon. But I've never done that, so I don't know like exactly how that hack works. But Google could definitely tell you. But you do need something to like clip in. But moral of the story, you can get $100 off by just, I'll leave like my code down below, but anyone you know, and then they get like $100 or something that you can use like at the Peloton store or online. Vanita, hi. I hope it did. I don't think it'll turn into a clothes rack. I'm pretty good about, I'm usually fairly consistent about exercising once I get in my groove. Michelle Del Real said, can there be more than one user? So I think you can have 6 users on one account. So like I have one, Joe has one, and then there might be other people on our account. But yes, you can. I think 6 is the limit. Have you done any of the Scenic rides? Do you have any guidance on those rides, or do you do it all yourself on those? So Vanita, the Scenic rides are kind of, I've done 1 or 2 of them and they're like, okay, you ride through, you don't ride on, I don't like love them because you go and you don't ride on a bike path. You like wander through. It's like you're riding through a city and they just like have you like go through random town squares. Like you're riding in places that are really weird and you shouldn't be, and it doesn't change the elevation for you. So like you have to manually do it. And the music, like I've done a couple and it's just like, I was not very impressed with the Scenic rides. Like they're pretty, but they also like all of a sudden shift. So it's not like someone got on a bike and put a GoPro on their head and then rode. It's like 45-second montages of like someone walking with something like, and it's like, I'm like, you couldn't ride a bike here. Like it goes down steps and then it totally shifts and you're in a totally different spot. So I did one and I was just not overly impressed by that. But I really like I like the recorded, you can do like a live ride, which I barely ever make any. I've made it to one on my birthday and they didn't even give me a shout out. I was like, but I'd watch them like the ones that they've done live, then I then watch later, if that makes sense. And they have like a bajillion of them. So I've never I don't think you could never ride like all of them. And they have a ton of different instructors who have a ton of different styles. It's just, I like it. How moving it is how you get your arm workout, Julie. Oh my gosh, isn't that true? I was having you know how I like to worry about things that are like really far in the future and I have no control over, but I just, sometimes if I don't have anything to worry about, I'll come up with something. I'm embarrassed to say this. I was like crying and Joe was like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, one day when we move, I'm going to have to move the Peloton and that stresses me out. And he was like, what? Like, we're not moving. Like, this is not. So that's a look into my brain. So yes, that'll be a really great arm workout in a couple of years when I get super duper stressed. Hi, Henry. Tony Rollins loved your video last week. Oh, thank you. It's just been an emotional bit of life. Karen, hi, I'm so fat. Oh, I'm happy you made a live. Kurt said I bought a Concept 2 rowing machine. I was into it for years and got bad muscles, eventually stopped, but had to go for it and have fun. I'm glad it was fun. Rick said, if you have an old bike in the garage, you can get a cheap back bracket trainer and add a speed sensor for $30 to try Swift as an alternative. And if you keep going for it for a month and consider Peloton. Yeah. And that's what a ton of people told me to do. So I knew that I would like it just because I used to do spinning all the time. But I think that's a really good entry into it, is like getting something like that and then seeing, and you'll see that all the time if you go on like Facebook Marketplace. It's a ton of people who like got that, and then they have like a cheaper version, like a much cheaper, like $200 or $300. You can get like a stationary bike and then just put the sensor on it just to see if you like it, which is like a $300 or $400 versus like crazy expensive investment. Kurt, how heavy is it? I don't know. Heavy. Like 50 something, 70 pounds. It just seems very precarious. And then you would have to like lift the screen off. And that just stresses me out. Like the whole concept of like, am I going to fracture something? Google says it weighs 135 pounds. So definitely not 50. Thanks, Ashley. I was like, I don't know, like 135. Yeah, that's a lot more. I was like, definitely more than my children. Yeah. So there. It's very like it is not easy to move at all. Does Joe use the Peloton? He's used it once. I'm trying to get him to use the Peloton. He really liked going to the gym. Obviously, no one is going to the gym right now. So Joe has not necessarily been exercising. Probably doesn't like going to throw him under the bus here. But he did ask me the other day if you ever get a referral, he's like, if anyone ever like uses your like code thing and you have an extra $100, I guess you can buy me the shoes. I was like, do you want the shoes? What does that mean? Like, you want me to just get the shoes, or like, what are we aiming at here? So who knows? Maybe one day Joe will get the shoes and then he will ride the Peloton. It would be, I just can't mentally imagine that. Kurt, it's not that bad. I can move it with no problem. Well, Kurt, you're a lot stronger than me. I can't move it by myself. Joe and I were able to finagle it in place. Vanita said, what's been your favorite music theme for a class? I heard there was, or might be, a Spice Girls class there. I think there is a Spice Girls class. I'm pretty sure I've taken it. I've done a Britney ride. The Britney ride was amazing and also so challenging. I love Cody. I think the only people I've been riding with lately are Cody and Tunde. Between the two of them, like, they pretty much have everybody, like everything. Cody, they just does like pop music. And then Tunde does like a bajillion different things, and she's just amazing. Her. And then really that's it. That's all. All right, guys, I think that's our Peloton spiel. So if you have any other questions about whatever, let me know. I'm going to have a drink of water. Thanks for joining my not very thought out. I always like have come up with a topic for these and then like don't mentally prepare for it at all. I just sit down and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to be a more prepared human. Kristen said, off topic, I wanted to share I just graduated from an RT program. Thank goodness for you. And take my first board exam tomorrow. Moved to Durham next week and start a job in a local children's hospital in September. Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations. Thank goodness also for RTs. Holy moly. Like, you guys are lifesavers. If you ever need to know, sometimes I used to just like pick our respiratory therapist brains, like when they weren't busy. I tried not to be that person when they were busy, of just like how you would, like, I learned so much from respiratory therapists in terms of like how we would titrate the oxygen. Cause on my floor, we weren't an ICU, but we were like this in between, like middle ground. And so we could have, we would titrate the oxygen, kind of like if you wanted, instead of giving like 100% oxygen, and then they could be on CPAP or BiPAP, and we could actually like titrate it if the RT kind of gave us their blessing. But you just learned like so much, and I would pull, so that's like a huge tip to you guys, I guess, is just really talk to your respiratory therapist, bring them in and ask them like, what do you think? Like, what do you think? Because I feel like at least maybe it was just the hospital I was at, people wouldn't necessarily ask the respiratory therapist, like providers wouldn't ask the respiratory therapist, what do you think is next? However, they had such a better idea when you saw your kid, or your adult not doing well. I learned eventually to call the respiratory therapist if it seemed respiratory and just be like, I want you to just see this person. Like, what are you thinking? And they had such a better grasp on it. And then you could both kind of present your case. And that, I wish I had learned to do that quicker, of just calling, rather than calling the provider all the time. If it was a respiratory thing, I mean, notifying the provider, but sometimes just calling the respiratory therapist and saying like, could you just come lay eyes on this person and tell me how, like, where, what do you think is happening here? And sometimes they'd come and they'd be like, they're totally fine. What are you talking about? And sometimes they would come and they were like, oh my gosh, like we need to do X, Y, and Z. And then they were right there when I called for further help. So go you. Respiratory therapists are a phenomenal resource that I feel like are super underappreciated in our healthcare system. Miss No Name. Hey, I'm currently in graduate school, psych and P-track. Thank goodness for you too. Busy. Do you think it's a quicker route? Do you think this is a quicker route for busier people? I might have missed it, but I was wondering how the ordering and fees. I don't know if I understand your question. Could you clarify it? Thank you. Sophia Bachmeyer said, is 36 hours a week the most you can work as a nurse, or can you work 4 shifts per week? I'm a high schooler considering nursing. So you can work pretty much like however you can get jobs like doing whatever. I have worked 12 hours a week as a nurse. I have worked 40 hours a week as a nurse. Some hospitals do 12, some do both. I have worked only 12s. I have worked 8s and 12s. Like some, when I first started, I worked only 8s. Don't do that. Don't work 40 hours, 8s only on night shift. You will have 2 days off a month. It's not a good idea, but you can do a combination. Different jobs will have different postings. Some hospitals, if they have, it just kind of depends. Some you can do combinations. It's very much up to you. And I guess it's up to your job. It's not up to you. You don't get to just do whatever you want. It's up to your job, what they're hiring, and what you can kind of finagle. But I've also found that once you're in the job, sometimes you can like decrease and increase depending on what the unit needs, as long as they're willing to work with you. Some units aren't, and you don't want to work with them. Kristen Lee, awesome. Benita said, thanks, Liz. I know you don't want to talk Peloton on your channel, but I live through anyone's videos on it because I want one so bad. I don't mind talking Peloton. I'll talk Peloton all night. That's why I did one of these things, because I was like, I want to talk about it, but I couldn't figure out. I didn't think, even I, who can talk on end about many things, I didn't think I could make an entire video about Peloton, because my synopsis was like, yes, I like it. I do recommend it. It is expensive, but I love it. Don't be me. And spend, I forget how many months. I just like, sometimes I'd spent forever wanting one, ever and ever and ever. Julia, I just lost your question. How much training in nutrition do FMPs get? Like none. Do you ever refer people out to nutritionists? I refer them to registered dietitians. So there's a big difference between nutritionists and registered dietitians in that nutritionists can be anyone. Nutritionist is just like a title. Anyone can kind of say like, oh, I'm a nutritionist. Registered dietitians, they have to go and get a advanced, I think it's like a master's. Some people might get their doctorate in it, and they have to take a licensing exam, and they are a licensed, like they take a board exam, and then they're a licensed, like a provider, they're a registered dietitian. So I do refer out some people to registered dietitians. I wish we could do more. People a lot of times just can't afford it. A lot of insurances won't cover it, or they have to reach that, like if they have a deductible, like a high deductible plan. Like we were going to go take Avery to, we had to take Avery to a registered dietitian, and oh my gosh, it was like $200, I want to say, like for one session. And they want to meet with you like multiple times. And we met with her once, and we were kind of just like, this is not, from what it was just like a mess. I mean, she was great, but just, it wasn't going to be helpful, and it wasn't going to be worth the thousands of dollars that it was going to. They wanted to meet like every week for like a really long time. We were like, I can't do this. And that same thing is with my patients. So I will always offer my pre-diabetics and people who have diabetes to go to a registered dietitian, because I think it's incredibly helpful. I would say maybe 5% of them go, and so that's like a terrible percentage. Some insurances cover it, and that's beautiful, but most don't. And that's frustrating. So some, I know offices have a registered dietitian within their own, like some of the bigger healthcare systems. And they like, that is beautiful. Cause also it's like hard to like drive out there. And then it's, like, it can be really a while to get into one. Moral of the story, I love registered dietitians. We did not get any real training about this. We didn't get any in NP school. The only time I've ever gotten to take a nutrition class was in my prereqs for nursing school. So it's just totally backwards. Like you would think that you would spend, I think there should be a whole, when I run the world and burn nursing school to the ground and build it back up, you will have a whole class, just a warning for all of you, there will be a whole class on nutrition, because I feel like, and how to do it, like how to eat healthy affordably. Like I feel like there needs to be a whole class in general on just like navigating the healthcare system in an affordable way. But there will be one on, because like eating is such a foundation of all health. And a lot of people don't have the resources to just be able to go to the grocery store, and they might not have a grocery store available to them. And so we got to work with what I wish there needs to be a class teaching people how to do things like creatively. And if any of you are a registered dietitian, you can come teach my class when I rule nursing school. Let's see. Henry, if any of you got classes in nutrition in an FNP program, let me know. I don't think med school does it. I don't think PA school does it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I think in general, healthcare does a terrible job of, we don't look at nutrition. We just tell people like, oh, well, now you have all these complications of eating like that for that long. Or they're like, how should I eat? And you're like, I don't know. I'm not a dietitian. Eat less carbs. And that's not healthy at all. Henry said, I'm in high school starting my CNA class in January. Oh, that's exciting. Do you have any advice in regarding to deal with class load, finding jobs, or anything else? I think I have like a couple, just browse my channel. I have a few different things, but I would just go into it with an open mind. I think that would probably be my best advice if you're just starting. Just go into it with an open mind, willing to learn from everybody, because you have no idea where you're going to end up, and it might really surprise you. Like I am doing nothing even close to what I thought I would be doing when I started my nursing program. So just go into it with an open mind. Miss No Name said, how the ordering and fees work for the equipment. Does that make sense? How the ordering and fees works for the equipment, like the equipment for school. Let me see if I can go back and find your question. Busy. Do you think the quicker route for busier people? I'm not understanding. Let me know if it's the fees for like what equipment, for patients or for you in school. Sorry, I'm like, my brain's tired. I can't understand words. Robin said, thank you for your channel after being an Air Force pilot. Oh, that's hardcore. Go you. I'm starting a second career as a concurrent BSN ADN program next week with aspirations of being a women's health NP and midwife down the road. Oh, that's so exciting. Go you. That's so cool. you are a hardcore human and you rock. Also, we need lots more women's health NPs and awesome midwives and just women's health care provider in general, because we don't have a lot. And we need so many more, especially people who are just like kind and understanding. And I hear horror stories all the time of people just not being kind to women. Thank you for the encouragement. Christy said, Wild, I was just researching the bike, totally jumped on your Insta page to see if you had a saved thread. I think I do. I do have a highlight reel on Instagram of Peloton stuff. And here you are talking live about the bike, saving it now, and should be, you say should be ready by November. I think they are. I think they are shipping like so long. I feel so lucky because I got in just like right before I ordered mine, like in March. So like when all this was happening, but before, like I didn't order it because of the pandemic. It was just like, oh, I'll order this now. And then they got like so behind. Like I ordered mine on a Sunday and it was here on Thursday. Oh, now I just feel so bad saying that, because now it's like months booked out. Vanita said, Christy, my friend just got it. And FYI to everyone, apparently if you finance it, you have to put it on a bank card only. You can't put it on a credit card and rack up those points. Oh, that's annoying. Ugh. That is annoying. Mario said, hi, is it possible to find a job as an RN with an associate degree? For sure. It might not be the absolute job. Depending on where you live, it might not be the job that you want. Some job areas are super like BSN only, like they only want that. And some job areas are much more friendly to ADNs. It totally just depends on where you live, but you will be able to find some job. Will it necessarily be like, if you want a very specific job, it might not be that job, if that makes sense. But you will be able to find a job for sure. And I know a lot of places will hire ADN nurses if they are enrolled in a BSN. Like if they say like, oh, now I'm going to bridge. It's all just such garbage because you learn nothing in that ADN to BSN bridge, like absolutely nothing. So why don't we use it, like actually utilize it rather than having people do discussion boards and read a bunch of articles and write papers? Like we could do so much better. I feel like in my world, one of those classes for your BSN, like either it's ADN to BSN bridge or just like in your BSN program, you would do one on like health policy, like how to kind of like, because I took a policy class in NP school and that was actually really interesting, like learning about the different legislature and how you could get involved. One would be how to actually educate, like a class on like educating patient. It would just be very different one day when I rule this world. Sophia said, can an NP work in an ER? If so, what should they go to school for? So yes, lots of NPs do work in the ER. It's going to totally depend on your ER. Some, it's difficult. There is a emergency medicine NP program. There are a few emergency medicine NP programs. They're emerging. I think that's going to really take off in the future because it's such its own thing, because you have to be able to see patients, most cases, of all ages. And it's such a weird middle ground between, it's not really acute care. So you don't need all the ICU stuff that like acute care does, but it's definitely not, so you don't need all the preventative primary care stuff. So I think those programs are going to blow up. Right now, I would just look in your area and see what they want. Some want family, and with family, I would hope that they would really extensively train you, because like with the background, like I only ever did outpatient. So I would feel so uncomfortable going into emergency room unless I was in like, you know how some emergency rooms have like the urgent care side where they kind of put all the people who come in for an earache or things like that you could totally do without like excessive training. Other areas require an adult, like a acute care NP. So an adult gero, acute care, and a pediatric acute care. Like they require you to have both. And other areas just require an adult, and then you can only see people 13 and up. So it totally depends on where you live and what are the resources. In a huge ER that mostly deals with adults, they'll hire adult acute care a lot of the times. At least that's where I worked. That's what they trended to because they had a different emergency room. It was a big hospital. They had a totally different emergency room for children. So it didn't matter if you couldn't see children. But if you work in a more rural area and you are expected as the ER provider to see everyone, you're going to need to be able to see everyone. So that's going to require you to be an FNP or a pediatric NP, but you also have to see adults. So that's where it gets complicated. And I think in the future, we're going to see a huge growth of either more emergency NP programs or a postmaster's like certification that you could add on to an FNP that would give you that more acute care. Cause you know what I mean? Like we're not trained to do all of the crazy stuff that happens in the emergency room. Let me see. I realize I always like sing when I do that. I'm trying to like find myself in the comments. Let me. RN Chronicle said, I'm an open heart nurse and I'm considering going FNP in January. Do you suggest full-time or part-time? We are also doing virtual learning for my kindergartner this year and need advice. If you have children, I would highly recommend the part-time program. I think, unless you're like not working at all, if you're not working, then you could probably just treat the program like a full-time program. But if you're working and parenting and schooling, I would do part-time. I did a part-time program and I really liked, and I didn't even before I had kids, and I was able to like work full-time for the first 2 years. And I had no free time, but like I chose to work full-time. Well, I needed to work full-time, but you know what I mean? Like, so there's got to be like a little bit of give and take. And your kid, as soon as I had Avery, I had to pull back because I just couldn't do all the things full-time. It was just a little bit too much, but I really liked going part-time. And I think in the end, like, is that extra year that it takes you, it's totally worth the sanity, in my opinion, unless you're like just head down. Like if you don't have kids, sometimes I'm like, I get the full-time because you can just like go for it and make that your focus. But if you have kids or you just want to like enjoy life along the way, I always recommend the part-time route. It does take 1 year longer, but it's just so much more pleasant. Full-time just seems like all the people in the full-time, my program offered full-time and part-time, and those full-time people, they were stressed. Like they always, like we were always like, I don't know, kind of like goofing off and like we had fun. But those full-time people, they were in their little corner and they looked like they were having aneurysms all the time. You would talk to them and they're like, I have no joy. We were like, oh, okay. Ricky Evans said, same here. Nutrition was a prereq for my BSN. My only memories are never eat the liver of a polar bear and choose my plate. I really need to hear what happens when you eat the liver of a polar bear. ChooseMyPlate.gov is a phenomenal, it's either Choose My Plate or My Plate, is a phenomenal resource for your patients. I send all my people there, a lot of my people there. Who knows if they actually go to that website, but I like it. Samantha said, I did a nutrition class before my BSN, so I didn't have to take it, but it was mandatory for my BSN. Yeah, I know. So why don't you, I think all nursing schools, it's required for nursing school. So why don't we do it again or do something else when you go on and get your NP? It makes no sense to me. Ashley said, after surviving this crazy summer, we found out this past week that we can do at least half of our fall semester clinical hours in the hospital. Oh, that's exciting. That'll be super helpful. XM, this should be part of high school. It really should. High school is also going to look a lot different in my world, friends. A lot different. Amanda, do you think a phlebotomy class would be useful before nursing? No, let your hospital teach you. So depending on where you work, you might never have to do that. The hospital that I worked at, it wouldn't hurt. I don't want to say it'll hurt, but yeah. The hospital I worked at, they did all of your labs you did central lines, but if they had to get a peripheral poke, they did it for you, unless you were getting a heel stick or something. They did all of your labs and they did we had an IV team. So it totally depends on where you work. If you are going to be, if you're going to be working somewhere where you have to do that, then sure. But also your job will teach you, you know what I mean? So don't spend extra money learning a skill that nursing school is expensive. Let them teach you. And if they're not going to teach you, let the place that's going to pay you teach you. I wouldn't pay extra money to do it. I think she means the Peloton. Oh, is this about the this poor person that I was just not understanding? Probably. How is the ordering and fees? Let me scroll back. Bear with me. Do you think this is a quicker routine for busier people? Oh, Miss No Main, are you talking about the Peloton? I thought you were talking about something totally different, like school related. I'm like, what are we talking about? That makes so much sense. Thank you, someone who clarified. I do think it's very good. The Peloton is very good. I feel so dumb now. Very good for people who are super busy because you can get in a really good workout, like a HIIT exercise or really whatever kind of ride in like 20 minutes. I mean, like flat. So that is excellent if that's something I love about it, because then you don't have to go and drive to the gym and come back. You don't have to fit it onto a certain time. So it's like, oh, I want to go to a spin class, but it's only at 9 a.m. and I'm at work at 9 a.m. You know what I mean? Like I can do it absolutely whenever. It's super duper duper quick. Love it for that. That makes a lot more sense. I am unsure. I told you guys, my brain is just something wrong with it. Thank you for the person that clarified that and was like, hey, Madeline. Thank you, Madeline. XM said I may pay for a phlebotomy class. I don't want to wait for the phlebotomist to get my samples to the lab. Wow, you're motivated. Good for you. I had a nutrition as an elective in college, but we didn't learn anything that can help the patient. Is more just learning about calories, burning calories, counting calories, reading food labels. Yeah, that's kind of what my nutrition class was too. Not, which was like helpful, but not like, here's how you can help your patients have better nutrition. Tony said, I'm taking my finals in patho and pharm and feel like I've learned nothing but how to write a research paper, discussion board posts, and APA. Same. When I rule the world, friends, that'll be different. We spend so much time in nursing school on stupid stuff like that. Like that's my patho teacher was on a mission. She like prided herself on, she was a peer reviewer of papers, like research papers. And she wanted everyone's APA to be like perfect. Like, I'm like, this is one of the most important classes we take in NP school is patho. Like maybe we should focus on that a little bit more. No, not even, oh, she was not interested in that at all. She just wanted to focus on this. And I'm like, there need to be discussion boards, useless. Everyone just goes on there and they're like, hey, Amanda, I absolutely agree with that statement you just made. Here's 3 of my own opinions. Useless. We won't be doing those in my world. Amanda or Abigail, how different are Avery and Piper's personalities? Not a nursing question. I love not nursing questions. Ask away on the non-nursing questions. They are like polar opposites. So Avery cracks me up in your blogs. Oh, thanks. She cracks me up too. Avery is very like, just like loud and very curious and very, like she'll try a lot of things, but she'll get frustrated pretty easily. And then she'll like blow up about it, but then she'll like kind of return to baseline fairly quickly. She is very timid when it comes to like being adventurous. So she doesn't like to ride the bike. She doesn't like to ride her scooter. Like she's very risk averse, very loud, very like clever though. Like she's like good at like puzzles and other little things. And she'll like, figure things out really well, like very clever, very funny. Like she just absorbs everything and like says the funniest, like really harsh things to you where you're like, wow, that was really mean, but really funny. Very also like so many emotions. Like that child has so many emotions, and Piper is much more like, as far as we can tell with her emotions, like very reserved, very like more quiet, but like very conniving and determined. Like, whereas Avery will get frustrated with something and leave it, Piper will like sit there and like spend forever trying to figure it out. She also is much more like, it takes her a really long time to get to the boiling point. But then when she reaches the boiling point, like that child cannot rein herself back in. Whereas Avery's already like had 6 meltdowns in the time that Piper's like reached her point and then like having her big epic meltdown. So it's really it's been really interesting and funny. Piper's just so chill, like so chill. So it's been really interesting to see their personalities develop, especially now that Piper is coming out of her little shell. Beth said, working towards being a women's health nurse practitioner. Awesome. Bronwyn, can you share your Peloton username? I'd love to be friends. Sure. It's Oh, okay. You have to read it, like say it out loud. It's okay, Liz, go. Like, okay, let's go. But okay, Liz, go. You have to say it out loud. Atra said, just wanted to say that the Schwinn IC4 is basically the same as the bike, but a lot less. And you can still do the Peloton workouts as a subscription. That's the one I was talking about earlier where I said, like, that one's great. It just doesn't feed automatically into it, but a lot of people really, really liked that as an option. So definitely, like, if you still want to, if you want the experience, that's an awesome. I almost went that route. And then a ton of people were like, if you know you're going to love it, then just like go for it. And I was like, I'm just going to go for it. But that is a great option. That's the name of the bike. So thank you for saying that. The answer, if you want to. Another job, like I was a waitress and I learned a lot of skills. Being a nurse is a lot like being a waitress, but for like people and medicine. And I think you can gain, you don't, like being a CNA is going to show you a lot about the healthcare world and it's certainly going to be super duper helpful, but you don't have to be a CNA, if that makes sense. There's a lot of other jobs that are going to be helpful, like being a waitress, anything in customer service, getting to learn how to communicate with people is going to be key. And then shadowing, if you can, is always really helpful. Samantha said, I landed my first job and my ABSN ends this August. Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. You were really on it with your job search. Go you. Jesse Smith said school starts in 2 weeks. Any tips for getting through the lows of doing prereqs? Just bury your head down and get through it. They are the absolute worst. You got to just kind of like ignore and plow through, and you can't lift your head up and you can't look at the world outside of you. You just got to have to like go for it. And then remember how much you hate it this time. You would really hate it doing again. I know other people probably have better motivation for you, but that was mine. In classes that I hated, I was like, this is miserable. I never want to do this junk again. Let's just get through this. We have to do well enough to pass because this is the worst. Do one of you just add me on Peloton? My watch just told me, it was like, you have a new Peloton friend. Thanks. You can, if you add your friends on, like if you have Peloton friends, then you can you get badges for riding with a lot of people. So it's so funny. Jade said, it's funny. Piper is so chill. Everyone I know, including me as the second child, is always the crazy one. I know. Avery embodies all of that. And, Piper's very much a first child. It's very interesting. I say that as a first child because we're great. I'm the second child. That's a fair point. Any advice on currently being pregnant and being in NP school? So I think I have a whole video about being pregnant in NP school. You're going to have to, one, you can totally do it. Two, just don't, people are going to be so negative. Maybe they won't. Maybe you'll have a totally different experience than me. You just need to kind of put everyone else out of your mind. And when people are being all naysay and I don't know. I just had I'm probably a bad person to ask because I had a really bad experience being pregnant in NP school. It was very negative. Hopefully you don't have that. And if you do, just know that you can do it. That's literally why I originally and kind of did start this channel, was just to show that you can do that. You can be pregnant in NP school and it will be fine, because the messages I got from everyone, literally everyone, was that those would not go together. But so many people have kids in NP school because that's a very popular time to go to NP school. Is also a popular time to have babies. So you can do it. You're going to have to really just prioritize, the pregnant part wasn't the hard part. It was having the baby. So kind of prioritizing and deciding what's really important to you. Does that mean really cutting back at work, taking a year? If you want to take a year off of school, perfect, do that. Have all those newborn times, that, that time with the baby, but just really figuring out what really works for you. And it doesn't have to be anything that works for anyone else, because everyone's going to come at you with a bajillion things. I could tell you what worked for me, and Susie over here is going to tell you what worked for her. But you're really everyone has different priorities, and you really just have to go with what your gut says. You know what I mean? Whether that's take some time off, just plow through the end of this year, just get through. That was my method, was just I'm going to pull back at work. And then, so I was still working, but I was just working less. And then just finish. You know what I mean? Like, let's make it these last 10 months and be done. And you really are going to learn to be like your own advocate, because people are going to not necessarily have the nicest things to say. But just remember that it's an awesome thing. This is a happy thing. And if people are not offering you congratulations, then just bye-bye, friend. Bye-bye, because you don't need that. And it'll be okay. It really will be okay. I know there were lots of moments in that whole thing where it did not seem like it was going to be okay, but it will be okay. You are going to be just fine. And if phenomenal, you're going to do great. You're going to be just fine. If you have any more specific questions, let me know, but there's my pep talk. Menwa said, what are the best first birthday gifts? What is Piper's wish list for next month? Oh gosh, guys, second child. So, I like to keep our toy situation fairly minimal. I feel like they don't play with a ton. So I don't want to have just like a ton, and I don't like the loud. So I'm trying to think of what Piper's not getting a ton. She's getting a couple books and some clothes, because she needs new clothes, because her and Avery, all of Avery's clothes that were her size now, they're in the wrong season. Because Piper's almost the same size as Avery. So what did I get Avery when she was 1? Oh gosh. I really like books. We got her the blocks. I think whatever I got for Avery was very age inappropriate. I got it for her thinking she would I was willing her to be able to play with the stuff, and she couldn't. You could get maybe Duplos. Piper likes the really big Duplos to pull them apart. Let me think on that. I can't think of what we got Avery for. What did we get Avery for her first birthday? I don't even remember, guys. That's sad. We got her a shopping cart, maybe, to put all her stuff in. She couldn't use it. Whatever it was, I don't even know why I'm trying to answer this, because whatever it was, she couldn't use it. I remember getting it, and I remember my mom being like, why are you getting her that? She can't use that. And we got her one thing that was really good. It wouldn't be good now. Never mind. Was a membership to a children's museum. That's what her, Joe's mom's got for her, was that. And we used that all the time, because we could take her to the children's museum all the time. I'll have to do an Instagram story if I remember what we got, what would be a good toy for a 1-year-old. But now I can't think, because Piper only wants to play with big girl toys. She has no interest in anything age appropriate. She likes to play with those magnet tiles that we got Avery for her 3rd birthday. Piper's super into those. She loves blocks. She loves Legos. She loves the Feely books. Those are really good ones. Any book with texture, Piper is all about. And Avery loved at that age too. There's different board books that have just different textures, and she's super into that. Ryan, before I saw my cousin, he's like, tell Rachel I didn't poop in her apartment, so she doesn't have to worry. I was like, who? I didn't see who texted me that. And I was like, who is saying that? She appreciates you. Good work. Rick said, my ABSN is completely going back. He's just encouraging people. Thank you. Go you. RN Chronicles, another question. What was your hardest FMP class, and how did you power through and finish strong? Research. Now I'm glad that I took the research class, because we have to, it's good to know how to analyze research articles, but it was really boring. I hate writing papers. And I literally just powered through by realizing I couldn't move forward in my program. I had already paid a lot of money for it. I needed to pass to move on, and I certainly didn't want to take it again. So I was going to need to figure out how to write a better paper and study a little bit better from the tests that I did really bad on. And I did. It took a lot of work and playing around with different things and just figuring out what was going to work for me, and really just being miserable a lot, but we got through it. And that's the encouraging advice I have for you there, is figure out something. And you have to just play around with your different studying styles, really studying to the objectives, and then giving yourself a ton of time, so much more time for everything than you think you will need. Sophia, is Avery still potty training? She's not potty training. We're kind of, we've tried many times, but everyone's just just give her time, and eventually she'll want to do it. So one day that girl's going to wake up and be ready. She is a very determined person, and she is determined to not do that right now. So she's going through a thing. I don't know what that thing is. I think she's jealous that Piper's becoming a human and becoming her own person. And that's how it's lashing out, is obstinance about potty training. Hannah said, I'm graduating early at 17. Oh, good for you. And starting college in a few days. I'm majoring in nursing. I was wondering what an important nursing skill that can't be taught in any classroom. Oh, that's a good question. Probably advocacy, like being comfortable. Communication, I would say, would be the biggest thing, like being able to assess different things and being able to effectively communicate with patients, with family members, and with other members of the healthcare team. They don't really teach you how to do that, and other nurses. Being able to effectively communicate, which would involve like advocating, educating, and that's just something that you gain with time and dealing with lots and lots and lots and lots of people. And just you get it with time, and you'll be. That's why I think like any job in like customer service lays that foundation, because if you need to learn to like, just kind of like scope people out and talk to people, if that makes sense. That awesome girl said, I'm considering joining the military to have them fund my education. Do you know anyone who became licensed that way? P.S. I hope you do more live chats. It'll be invaluable. Oh, thanks. I do them every other week. So I hope so too. At least that's what I'm doing for right now. I don't know of anyone that went the military way to become licensed, to be honest. If anyone does, let me know. I know, like, no, I don't think I do. I'm trying to think of all the people on Instagram that I know who did that. Like, I know people that I went to college with that did that, but not in any way for anything healthcare related. I'm sorry. I think Aisha, CRNA, maybe. No, she just works for the military. I don't think, maybe they funded it, but that's all I can even think of. Tony R., do you have any update for the binder coming out soon? I hope one day. Friends, I am so overwhelmed with life, and just, I'm overwhelmed. I'm just overwhelmed. I hope one day. There is stuff that I have to go out in a binder update, but I literally just need like 2 hours to sit down and do it. And I don't have that. So I am kind of having like a life crisis at the moment. It wasn't what your question was about, but I just don't know when. I don't have time to, I don't have any free time. You're going to be my therapist here. I don't have free time. And I'm not getting what I need to get done at baseline. So I'm kind of don't know what to do. I don't want to put the girls in daycare more, because I'm like I'm doing this, like I do this so that I can be home with them more. But I've kind of I've dunked my foot in too many things, and I'm just trying to like figure out how to do all of it. So like I keep meaning to work on the binder, but I just literally don't have time. So eventually, that's why I have time. I don't have any great answer. I have some things to go in it, but guys, I have no idea. I have no time. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm trying to figure it out. So that's why. Everyone keeps asking. I'm like, I have no idea. I'm so sorry. But that's also why I tried to make it super cheap, because I was like, even if I can only get out 2 updates a year, people can't be mad, because it was $20 once. At least that's in my head. Does that make, hopefully other people follow that. Because I was like, oh, I could make it. So a lot of other people like, you can make it really expensive. I was like, no, because then I really would have to like be up on it. And I don't know how to do that. So I can't figure that part of my life out yet. So we're just going to make it fairly affordable. And then every now and then, if I get to it, then perfect. And if not, well, I'm going to try. So all that to say, hopefully within the next month. Jade said, I would definitely not count on that or join for those reasons. I personally know a lot of people who did not get their schooling paid for, including my husband. Ooh, that is not ideal. I think she was talking about the military. I always wish they'd teach us how to advocate for ourselves in nursing, but they don't. They don't teach you there's a lot of useful things that they don't teach you in nursing school, but you're going to be just fine. Everyone's going to be just fine. They're talking about education being funded and other programs. Okay, perfect. All right, guys. Well, I think I'm going to go wrap this up. I'm going to go downstairs and watch somebody feed Phil with my family, because that makes us all giggle so much. And you guys continue your excellent chat on like ROTC. There's a lot of people that seem to know a lot more than I do. So ROTC seems to be a good option from what all of you are saying. GW has a specific program for veterans. Thanks, Jessica. It's their same program for ABSN, but you don't need a bachelor's degree to enter. This is for the people who are watching on the replay and don't get to see the live talk, but thank you guys. Thanks for being here, friends. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I'll see you. We'll do another one of these in like 2 weeks. And yeah, have a good evening, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.